You've just woken up after a wonderfully restful sleep. You sit up, you stretch and exclaim,
"Good morning, world."
Uh-oh, morning voice, deep, raspy and dry feeling. For some of us, it's just another reason to avoid other humans first thing in the morning, and for others, it's something they wish they could maintain throughout the day. But why does this happen, and how can we stop it? I can't speak for everyone, but personally, I am terrible in the mornings and I do experience morning voice. Most singers will tell you that they don't want to do any singing before midday because their voice loses tone, it's deeper, it loses its range and just feels horrible. Now, this is a phenomenon that most of us have experienced, but I can't actually find any studies on it. Probably because it doesn't cause most of us many problems, apart from if you're a singer with the dreaded early morning audition. However, there are some theories in the vocal coach and medical world that offer us an explanation. Our voices make pitch at the vocal cords. Now, when we think of cords, we often think of pieces of string. However, they're not like that. They're flat pieces of tissue that are made up of ligament and muscle and have a soft outer shell. Considering they can make a massive noise, they're really tiny. So dependent on the person, they can be from 1.25 centimeters to 2.5 centimeters in length. The size of your vocal cords define how high or low your voice is. So smaller vocal cords produce voices with a higher average pitch, and larger vocal cords produce voices with a lower average pitch. So the first thing we need to ask is, do your vocal cords get bigger in the morning? The answer could be yes. During sleep, the tissues in our throat collects fluid. In fact, our face also collects fluid. That's why we have puffy eyes in the morning. I find I have puffy eyes and a low voice if I have gone to bed particularly tired and have slept really deeply. Now, this seems to be a result of not moving. I actually know some singers who will sleep propped up before a big performance in the morning to stop that fluid collecting. However, personally for me, as long as I'm in a good sleep pattern and I don't go to bed absolutely exhausted, I find that I don't wake up with such a low voice. Of course, anything that makes the vocal cords swell will make the vocal cords bigger, less able to vibrate evenly and make the voice lower, whether it's illness or allergies. A common cause is acid reflux, when stomach acid backs up into the esophagus. Yes, our vocal cords don't really like having acid on them, and this may cause them to swell. Now, if you've ever woken up with a burning sensation in your throat, you've probably already had this, and it's a surprisingly common ailment to have. Many people wake up with acid reflux. Some people are more prone to this than others, however, a really acidic or unhealthy diet could be the culprit. And of course, late night eating, acidic foods, coffee or alcohol could make this flare up. The inability to drain fluids while we're lying down could also contribute to another symptom of morning voice. Our voice feeling and sounding hoarse in the morning, which also can be perceived as lower sounding. This could be down to thickened excess mucus that's settled on our vocal cords overnight. Lovely. When we're producing a clean, crisp sound, our vocal cords are coming together fully and they're vibrating really evenly. Now, when we've got thickened excess mucus on our vocal cords, this causes them not to come together fully and to vibrate irregularly. When the vocal cords don't come together fully, it gives the voice a breathy tone, which is another symptom of morning voice. And when they vibrate irregularly, we hear that as distortion, a hoarse voice. However, this can easily be cured. Hydration is the key that allows the vocal cords to be flexible enough to vibrate evenly. It also thins the mucus and allows it to drain more easily. Keeping fully hydrated will not just help with morning voice, it helps keep our voice healthy in general. Unfortunately, coffee is not the best idea as it dehydrates the body. However, if you're like me, you will have to balance brain functionality with hydration. A hot caffeine-free drink often does the trick though, as the steam from the hot tea travels to the vocal cords, lubricating them and loosening that mucus. Standing in a nice hot shower will also help the mucus drain, and you get the benefits from the steam. Of course, using a steamer or nebulizer can also give you a kickstart. Dehydration may also be doing something else interesting and less gross to your vocal cords. So there is another factor as to how high your voice can go. So sometimes people with bigger vocal cords can sing higher than people with smaller vocal cords. Why would this be? Well, vocal cords are pretty incredible little things. They are strong enough to bang together hundreds of times a second and flexible enough to stretch. We change the pitch by tightening and relaxing the vocal cords, and the more flexible your vocal cords are, the greater the range you'll be able to achieve. If we become dehydrated at night, it can cause them to become less flexible until we've warmed up and hydrated again. There are plenty of things that can cause dehydration. Just not drinking enough water, drinking too much alcohol, too much salt in the diet, a lack of potassium. However, we don't need our entire body to be dehydrated for our vocal cords to be hydrated. You could just be sleeping with your mouth open. I know some singers that actually tape their mouth shut at night. Now, however, if you are going to do this, please go check it out properly and find the correct way to do this. I want to make sure everyone is doing this safely. You can also buy a snore belt. Again, I am not sponsored by them. I just found them very interesting. And this is a specialized brace that goes all the way around your head and shuts your mouth really gently so you can still open it if you really need to breathe in the night. It's also essential to make sure that the room you're sleeping in isn't too dry, whether it's too hot or too cold. Air conditioning and central heating can be a nightmare for singers, and running a humidifier can be a voice saver. It's also really important to note that people perceive warmer sounding voices as lower and more direct sounding voices as higher. Now, they may actually be the same pitch, but the tone differs. To change the tone of our voice, we need to change the size of our vocal tract. And we can do this artificially by playing around with the shapes that we make. So give me a dopey woo woo woo, like a bear, woo. So this sound helps us lower our larynx, making a bigger space between our voice box and our lips, elongating our vocal tract and making the sound warmer. So that extra warmth in our tone when we wake up could be just down to the fact that our neck muscles, our tongue and our jaw relax when we sleep. Most of us will wake up with morning voice at some point, so let's recap how we can lessen its effects. Good sleep pattern and general health, hydration, making sure our diet has plenty of potassium and not too much salt, making sure we don't eat or drink too late, avoiding alcohol, caffeine and acidic foods, making sure we sleep in a humidified room at a comfortable temperature, keeping on top of allergies, and if you're a little more extreme, prop yourself up and buy a snore belt. If you do wake up a little hoarse, it should return back to normal within an hour of speaking as long as you aren't ill. However, let's recap the tips to help you on your way. I first of all definitely recommend hydrating with room temperature water or caffeine-free teas. Vocal Zone, I'm not sponsored by them, I just love these teas. They do a fantastic range, so I'll put all the information down in the description. Having a hot shower can really do wonders, and make sure you warm up slowly. If you have an early audition, wake up an hour earlier to make sure you give yourself the time to get ready for it. And if you feel particularly dehydrated, using a steamer or a nebulizer should get you on your way. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode, please do thank my patrons. If it wasn't for their support, I wouldn't be able to make these videos at all. And you can find all the information about my Patreon at patreon.com/BethRoars. See you in the next one. Bye.